Welcome to First Pitch for Tuesday, May 7th. I'm Marco D'Angelo sitting in for the Prez today. And only the second time we've got to do a podcast, just me and you, Drew. It is Drew Martin. You can find him over at Sports Memo. How you doing today, Drew?
I'm doing good, Marco. Glad to be on with you. Yeah, we haven't done it much, but hopefully we can grab some winners here for the watchers. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for having me on, Marco.
No problem. Is that a Top Golf hat I see there?
It is a Top Golf hat. Nice catch there, man.
Yeah.
I've been to the one in Vegas, but this one is from the one in Miami. It's a fun time. I love going to Top Golf. Good times.
The one in Vegas, that's the only one I've been to, is the one in Vegas. And it's just off the hook. I don't know if all of them are set up exactly the same, but two pools at the one here in Vegas. They have, small concert venue there, comedy shows there. Those screens, at the driving range, sit there and watch the games. It's insane. And you got a betting kiosk right there inside Top Golf. So it's a pretty cool thing. If you're ever in Vegas, you got to check out Top Golf. Now, we need them to sponsor the show after that plug. Drew, it is baseball. We're going to kind of run through the schedule. A couple thoughts of anything. Some of the games will blow right over if neither of us have any real thoughts about it. But let's start schedule order. Washington tonight at Milwaukee. I'm going to think like the average Joe, John Q. Public. I like to quote them, and John Q. Public, they were in full force last night on the Golden State Warriors. I just did the podcast a little earlier with Ralph Michaels. We did the Morning Joe and a Pro, and I told him I was at Red Rock last night, my home base by my house, and I swear, Drew, I was the only guy in the sports book rooting for the Rockets last night. Everybody was on the Warriors last night. Tonight, with this Washington-Milwaukee game, how many people are going to look at this pitching matchup and going to say, what's the chances that Milwaukee wins again tonight, that they beat two of the top pitchers on back-to-back nights after last night Scherzer going and getting the win, and now they're going to beat Strasburg too? That's going to be, Washington can't lose with both of those guys. I think they can. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm one of the people looking at that way, too. So we're viewing this the same way. This is one that I really like off of tonight's card, Marco, starting right at the top. Didn't bet every game on the board, but right off the top, like this one. Milwaukee, Hauser on the hill for him. And if you look at his numbers in AAA, limited numbers in MLB, but in AAA, he has mowed through the opposing opposition. 95 miles an hour plus from his fastball. That's what you'll see. He's a round 2 draft pick. His AAA numbers are 1.27 ERA, 23 Ks, only 4 walks year to date. So he's been lights out at the AAA level. Always a volatile situation making the step up, but at least he's showing positive numbers at the AAA level. I like that, making the step up. Josh Hader will be available from the Milwaukee bullpen, so that's a plus as well in the later innings. I think Milwaukee has the better bullpen overall. And add into that, Washington's lineup is all banged up. If you're looking at this Nationals lineup from what they were projected to be at the beginning of the season, it's a vastly different story to what it is now. Soto, Zimmerman, Trey Turner, Matt Adams, all out. I'm forgetting some names too, just off the top of my head, but they're all banged up. Strasburg, he's been good, 57 strikeouts year to date, but still, it's just the starting pitcher's spot. So I think we get the better bullpen, the better lineup, the home team, plus, being the underdog. I think Milwaukee's the side here. I bet it personally.
Yeah, Milwaukee also on a winning streak. Don't like stepping in front of winning streaks that often in baseball, and Milwaukee playing good ball right now. Moving to the next game, we've got Philadelphia at St. Louis. Things didn't go well for Philadelphia last night. Shutout 6-0. Aaron Nola on the mound. Off to a slow start this year, but Drew, the last 2 games, he went into the 6th inning last time out, gave up 1 run. Start before that, he went into the 7th inning, gave up 1 run. Are we starting to see the buy sign of Nola regaining the form that he had last year? What a dominant pitcher he was for the Phillies.
Yeah, the former LSU Tiger, I agree with you. I think this might be sort of a buy low opportunity on him. You did bring up the fact Philadelphia didn't look good last time out, so I think it's kind of contrasting, views of this one, and it pretty much at a pick 'em price right now. I think it's properly priced, but if you made me bet it, I would look towards the Philadelphia side just because of Nola, and he's kind of found the bottom here, and it might be a buy low opportunity, but I haven't touched it as of now, Marco.
The next game heading to Miami at the Cubs. Caleb Smith's on the mound for Miami, and I know this is a guy that the advanced metrics guys, sabermetrics guys, they like Caleb Smith. You see action come in on him almost every one of his starts as a live dog, and once again, he's going to be a big dog tonight against Leicester. Cubs coming off a loss last night to Miami. Do they lose 2 in a row? And you know what? If you want to go for situational handicapping, last night was a flat spot for the Cubs. They were coming off that big weekend series over St. Louis where they got the sweep and rolled themselves into first place, and then turn around and lose to Miami and back to second place as St. Louis won last night. Do you see the Cubs bouncing back, or are you on the side of riding Smith with the price?
Yeah, that was a good spot analysis by you, Marco. And it's interesting because you get a bunch of South Florida baseball players up, and the weather is kind of cold up there in Chicago. So spot wise for Miami, it wasn't ideal either. But I think this is more important to look at the pitching matchup here. Caleb Smith, like you said, the advanced metrics guys, the gamblers, and people from South Florida know of him. Everybody else, not really, but he has been great this season. One of the surprises in all of baseball. And John Lester, his last couple times out has been good as well. Got some numbers here. He's only let up 1 run in his last 3 appearances, and he's faced some tough lineups overall this season. He's been at Seattle, the Dodgers, at Atlanta, at Texas. So some tough lineups there. I think he's been good. And the Marlins, only .593 team OPS versus lefties. That's 28th in all of baseball. So one of the worst lineups really overall, and especially against lefties. They just can't hit. Both of the bullpens have been taxed here, Marco, so of late. So I would stay away from full game, but we get Caleb Smith versus John Lester. Caleb Smith's been lights out, and I know the Cubs lineup has been hot of recent, but against lefties, they're only 10th in MLB in team OPS, so haven't really been that good against southpaws. So therefore, I'm actually looking at the first 5 under 3.5. As a bet that I've placed, and it's one of the bets, just like we talked about in the Washington-Milwaukee game, that I bet personally that I like off the top of the board. Those 2 are my best. This is first 5 under 3.5.
Yeah, to add one thing on John Lester, as you said, the last 3 starts, I only gave up 1 run. Go back to the 3rd start back. He only went 2 innings in that game, had to leave the game, then didn't have a start from the 8th to the 25th, but he come back. First start back after the injury, went on 425, went 5 innings, allowed 1 run, then comes back in his next scheduled start and goes 7 innings. So definitely heading in the right direction. 7 innings, a shutout ball, and his strikeout to walk ratio 13-1 in those last 2 starts back off the injury. So John Lester, every year when we start the year, you have guys say, well, Lester should start to decline. The guy just keeps going. I think that he's one of the guys that just doesn't get the respect with the metrics guys, but he keeps getting it done. Moving on to the next game, San Francisco and Colorado. I'm curious to hear your take on this one, because this is one of the ones on the card that I do have a strong opinion on, and I'll go second. I'll let you have the floor with it if you have anything on this one. You got Madison Bumgarner on the mound facing Colorado and Senzatella. How do you see this one?
Yeah, with Bumgarner on the hill, he's been shaky really in the beginning of the season. His last time out, though, he did pitch well, 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 8 Ks. And that was versus the Dodgers lineup. So it was a game that I actually I lost on. So it was something that I noticed there. It might be a buy low opportunity on Bumgarner, not really sure there. And on the other side, Colorado struggles versus lefties. Only a 73 weighted runs created number. That's OPS of 707, 25th in MLB. So really struggled against southpaws so far. It makes me look towards San Francisco. Also, in my opinion, by my numbers, they do have the better bullpen. I could see Sensatella doing well as well against the San Francisco Giants lineup. So I look towards San Francisco here. And also, if you got the balls to do it, I know it's in Coors Field, kind of looking towards the under as well, Marco. But no, I'll throw it back to you, man. That's the way I would look at it, though, under in San Francisco.
Well, I'll tell you what, Colorado's hitting the lights out of the baseball. They're 3-2 in their last 5 games, but typical Coors Field. 2 of these games were in Milwaukee, though. 11 runs, back-to-back games in final 2 games of the road trip. Come home, lose a 10-9 game to Arizona. Then they get blasted 9-2, then come back with an 8-7 win. So this is a team that in 4 of their last 5 games have scored 8 runs or more. I'm looking at the situational spot here. You had a strange scheduling dynamic yesterday, a little quirky thing, where you had a team keeping a series going through Monday. You had San Francisco play in Cincinnati, a 4-game series. Now, normally when you have a 4-game weekend series, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This one wasn't. They played yesterday in the afternoon, basically like a Wednesday getaway game or a Thursday getaway travel game. That's not a great situation, going from playing yesterday and then traveling to Colorado and now dealing with the altitude tonight. Yes, you've got the big-name pitcher on the mound in Baumgartner. You know where I'm heading already with this because I'm setting it up for a live play on the home team here with Colorado. I think we're getting value because of the name of Baumgartner, and as good as Mad Bomb has been, this stat just blows my mind on him. Going back to the start of last year, he's made 23 road starts. The San Francisco Giants are just 5-18 in those 23 starts. Add that to the scheduling situation, going to Coors tonight. I think Colorado is my sleeper pick of the day here. Great setup for them, and I'll take going against that big-name pitcher tonight. So that was my big one to talk a little bit about. Let's keep the schedule moving on. Head to Atlanta at L.A. Last night, the Dodgers got the job done, and that was first game back from a road trip, I do believe, for the Dodgers. Yes, they played at San Diego and San Francisco before that. So 2 big division series. They played back-to-back on the road, came home and got the win against Atlanta with Walker Buehler on the mound. Do they continue that tonight? They've got another hot pitcher with Ryu on the mound. He's been dynamite in his last few starts. Does he continue that tonight against the Braves?
First off, Marco, great find there on that Colorado spot. You kind of changed my opinion there. Glad I didn't bet it yet. But, yeah, on to this NL East versus NL West matchup here. 2 lefties on the hill. Ryu, like you said, man, he has been lights out. 2 earned runs. He hasn't let up more than 2 earned runs in any appearance year to date. 25 Ks in his last 20 innings. Also, we got a Fried round 1 draft pick here coming from the left side. He's a guy that I'm looking to bet on a lot more than fade. In 3 of his last 4 starts, gave up at least 7 hits. But last time out, he only gave up 4 hits. And so that's more of a bet-on opportunity for me. He'll light it up. 124 weighted runs created number versus lefties. That's number 5 in baseball for Atlanta. So it makes me point towards the underdog here, plus the fact that LA Dodgers, their lineup is good, but against lefties, it's just kind of average team OPS. So at a plus price here with a young starter on the hill with a lot of upside, I would look towards the first 5 innings on the Braves.
Yeah, if I had to play this game, I think I would look at the Braves. I don't know that I've got a big enough set, where to pull the trigger on the Braves here against the Dodgers, but I am definitely not on the Dodgers. Here's another interesting pitching matchup. The New York Mets send Syndergaard to the mound. And just like we said in the Washington one, how many guys are going to look and say, okay, back-to-back, we got DeGrom and Syndergaard. The Padres can't beat both of them, can they? What do you think?
I think that they can, sure. It's not a spot that I would necessarily be looking to bet on the Padres. I think that Syndergaard has the ability here to mow down their lineup. I would look more towards the under, just because I could see Syndergaard having success. And the Mets lineup isn't necessarily a lineup I'm looking to bet on. So 7.5 in Petco, I would lean towards the under, but it's a game I'm not involved in.
Yeah, here's my problems with it. Definitely Syndergaard off to a horrible start this year, but we might have got the buy sign last time out. Is he was dealing it. Now, it was against the Reds, but he went the complete game, shutout, 4 hits, 10 strikeouts in that one. And to me, that is the big indicator that he is back. The previous starts, he only went 5 innings, the 2 starts before that, and only had 5 innings, 5 runs, 5 innings, 4 runs, only 5 strikeouts. That's not Syndergaard. He was dealing it last time out. He could go on a roll, but I cannot back a Mets team right now that cannot hit the broadside of a barn. Their lineup right now is just pathetic offensively. Last 6 games, 7 runs total scored in 6 games. Just can't do that. Maybe the play is to look at the under in this one, but I'm not going to get involved at all. And the Mets historically the last couple of years have been an over team, but they're not scoring runs right now, so we cannot look at them. Another team I can't look at right now, and they bit me on Sunday. Last 2 games, the Cleveland Indians have been outscored at home 19-1, Drew. That's about as bad as it gets. And this Cleveland team, I just cannot get a pulse on them this year. I know we got our buddies Ralph Michaels and Brian Leonard, big Cleveland Indian fans, and I ask them all the time, what the hell's going on with this team? They're all over the place, and they don't have an answer either. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I'm looking at that stat with their lineup. I believe they're the coldest lineup in the American League. And Giolito, he's kind of a volatile guy. I think that he could have success tonight, and it would be underdog or pass for me in the AL Central tonight.
Yeah, I got absolutely nothing on this one because about the time I step in front of Cleveland, that's when they'll put up an 8 spot and just run me over. So bye, Indians. You can stay in Cleveland. The next one, that's a little Pittsburgh dig, against those Cleveland guys. We've got Seattle and the Yankees. Last night we had a matchup of probably 2 future Hall of Famers with King Felix and CC Sabathia. Tonight, little different matchup, Tanaka and Gonzalez. Do you see any value in this one anyway?
I did like the over. I think, through all these injuries, the Yankees lineup has continued to hit, and Seattle on the other side versus Tanaka, who's been shaky, I think that they could have success as well. The market obviously saw it and went from 8.5 to 9.5. Now it's just a matter of did it get out of reach here. And talking about what you said yesterday, Felix Hernandez going out there and getting rocked, really. It's just a buy sign for this Yankees lineup that tends to it doesn't matter with injuries, Marcos. So I would look for some runs tonight in Yankee Stadium. Look towards the over.
Yeah, I got to just give a little shout out right now. I've got nothing on this one, but as you were giving a brilliant analysis there, my phone was ringing. Who was dialing me at this time? Okay, nobody knows that I'm doing a podcast right now other than one person. The person I'm sitting in for, doing the podcast for him, that was on the email chain of what time we were doing this podcast. Yes, Lawrence is calling me on the phone while I'm doing his podcast for him. What an idiot. All right. Okay, I got my rant over. That's my shot, and I hope you listen to it. And if you don't listen to the podcast, I will timestamp what part of this was so that I called you out on the podcast. All right, let's go to the next one. In Boston and Baltimore. My God, Drew. The Boston Red Sox. What the hell is wrong with this team? World champs last year, and they can't get out of their own way. Just when you think they get some momentum, put a couple wins together, they go out and they lose to Baltimore. Come on, tell me, a couple of weeks ago they had that road sweep of the Tampa Bay Rays. You're thinking, okay, we're back. Here's the Red Sox now. We're going to see them go on a run, and they don't. They have won 6 of their last 8 games, but as I said, open up a series in Baltimore and lose as a big road favorite. You have any thoughts on this one?
My thoughts are I don't want to lay minus 180 with the Boston Red Sox anytime soon, Marco. Baltimore being at home, winning last night. Looked a little rejuvenated. I saw a bunch of this game, and I don't know if you saw that home run out to left, or I'd say home run, but it was taken away from him. JD Martinez went up to grab it, and a fan touched it. I thought it would have went out anyway. The Red Sox got that call. It's almost like MLB's trying to help them out and just can't. They've lost 14 units year to date. If you're laying minus 180, minus 190 now on the odds screen, I don't know, man. You're different better than me. I passed on this game, but it would be the Orioles or pass for me.
Yeah, I'm not involved in this one, and I agree with you 100%. You can't lay this number on the road. And you're laying it with a pitcher, Hector Velasquez. His last 3 starts, he has not gotten out of the 4th inning. He's gone 2, 3 1/3, in 3 innings. Can't get it done. I'm not there. I don't like this game. We'll pass this one and move along. Better games on the board. Minnesota at Toronto. Minnesota sends Berrios to the mound. This is a guy that a lot of the sabermetrics guys like him. I'm not a big sabermetrics guy, but I do like him. I like him on the old-fashioned stats as well. Solid pitcher. Minnesota got the job done last night. I had Minnesota as a free play, both on the radio show yesterday and on my Betting First Look. Toronto was returning home from a road trip. They played on the West Coast against the Angels to start the road trip, closed it out against Texas. You know me, I like to go against teams that first game back home off the road trip, but this is game 2 now back home, and I think the advantage does favor Toronto situation-wise, but I don't know if I want to step in front of Berrios. Just pitching great baseball.
Yeah, no, that's a great breakdown as far as it, and also I agree with you. You know, being back home on that first game, looking to fade him, but this is the second game. Minus 150 with Minnesota. It's the way I would look. I think Minnesota's lineup is definitely a lineup they can smack the ball around a little bit. I could see them putting up some crooked numbers, and Berrios I could see going 6-7 strong innings here. So I think get the minus 145, minus 150. I mean, a lot of the 45s have been taken out, Marco. I would look to lay it on the road, but again, laying these kind of over minus 140 prices on the road especially isn't something I look to do a lot, so it's not a game that I bet.
Yeah, if you are going to do it, a pitcher that's got 46 innings so far, 7 starts for Berrios. He's got a whip of 0.97. That's the kind of guy that you can do it with if you are going to do it. Looking at the next game, we've got the LA Angels traveling to Detroit. Start a series here in Detroit. Had the day off yesterday after a 2-game series against Houston in which they just got blasted 24-6. They were outscored in those 2 games against Houston. Now they travel to play a Detroit team. Detroit started the season off, surprisingly well. One of the early season surprises for about 2 weeks, and now they're back to being the Detroit Tigers that we all know and love. They are 3-2 in the last 5, but they had lost 4 games in a row prior to that. Not scoring a lot of runs. How do you see this one? Do you like the home side here, or are you going with the underachieving Angels?
I'm actually going at this from a total standpoint, Marco, and it's another game that I did bet here in the American League. We got Canning making the step up from AAA. His AAA numbers have been lights out, 16 innings, only 1 earned run. He did struggle versus Toronto in the major leagues this year, so it is something to kind of pump the brakes on. But add in the fact that the Angels struggle against lefties, just a 75 weighted runs created number, which is 23 in Major League Baseball, only a 640 OPS versus lefties, and the fact that the Angels have the biggest discrepancy from home to road team OPS. They're on the road here, so put that in your back pocket as well. On the other side, the Detroit starter Norris has 3 out of his last 4 appearances, he's allowed 1 run or less, so he's getting hot right now on the mound. It's trying to stay away from these bullpens, average bullpen for LA, and Detroit a bottom 10 bullpen. So I'm going to stick towards the first 5 right here. And there's 5s across the board right now. So I like the under in this Angels-Tigers matchup, first 5.
Yeah, that's a good point about the bullpen, especially with Detroit, and especially with Daniel Norris on the mound. He has pitched well, Drew, but this is a guy that's going to give you 5 innings. That's basically where he's at, and then you're going to turn it over to the Tiger bullpen, and that's when you close your eyes and just pray that they don't blow the game for you. As far as Griffin Channing goes, that first start, he gave up 3 runs. He went 4 in the third. You would have liked to have seen him get through the 5th inning. He did give up just 4 hits. One of them was a home run. What I did like, though, was the strikeout to walk ratio. In only 4 in the 3rd innings, he did have 6 strikeouts to only 1 walk. So it wasn't a situation where he had command issues, and he definitely had command of all of his pitchers if he struck out 6. And I've always been of the belief that the pitchers have the advantage first time through the league. So I would agree with you. The way Norris has been pitching as of late, it gives you those strong 5 innings. And Channing, the Tigers have not seen him before. This is an advantage to him. This looks like a good setup for a first 5 under. I would agree with you on that one, Drew. Moving on, Kansas City and Houston. Big number here. Is there anything in this one that we even need to talk about? Minus, I'm seeing some as high as 240 with this one. Duffy on the mound for Kansas City, but Kansas City's just they're one of the 3 worst teams in baseball, if not the worst. I don't know where you rank them, but this team, I just can't trust them here to take them on a number. They're 1-4 their last 5 games. They're not scoring runs. They had that one outburst against Detroit, a 15-3 victory with Homer Bailey on the mound for them. And other than that, I'm seeing them putting up 1s, 3s, 2s. How do you see this one?
Yeah, Marco, I mean, if you're ever looking to lay a big number here north of $2, this is the spot to do it. I think you get the way better team being at home. Houston smashes lefties, number 1 in baseball, 134 weighted runs created numbers off of southpaws. And on the other side, KC is 4-13 on the road, 1-7 versus the AL West, minus 9 units year to date. One of the worst bet on teams in all of MLB. So I would look towards Houston here at the big price, laying it with the Astros.
Well, I definitely don't want Kansas City, so it's Houston or pass. For me, it would be a pass. Texas travels to Pittsburgh to play my Pittsburgh Pirates. Pirates been all over the place this year. Off to a good start. Beginning of the season, actually just a couple weeks ago, they were in first place in the division. That didn't last long because they proceeded to have a lengthy losing streak. They've now won 4 of their last 5 games. They have Texas coming to town, Texas coming off that sweep of Toronto, they won 2 out of 3 against Toronto, but in the last 2 games, they scored 18 runs against Toronto pitching. They send Sampson to the mound, who in his last 2 starts, although he hasn't gone deep into the games, he's only given up 2 runs in the last 2 starts. He's pitched a total of 10 innings in those 2 starts, 8-1 strikeout to walk ratio. He will be facing Stephen Brault. Not a solid outing last time against St. Louis. Only went 4 2/3. Gave up 5 runs. Only 4 were earned. As much as I like my Pirates, I don't know that I can get behind them in this spot tonight.
Yeah, I don't think I can either, Marco. Brault, making the step up. He's been touched up whenever he's made the step up, but Texas struggles against lefties, so that's enough for me to kind of keep off the Texas side as well. Sorry to say, I probably wouldn't lay near minus 140 with your Pirates.
Yeah, and I should have said that those numbers that I was saying for Brault actually was last year when he came up. It's funny. You look at the dates of his starts last year, it would be like right in line with where he would be this year. Those starts were in late April of 2018, and here we are early May of 2019. So sorry for that one. Looking at the chart there, first start of the season for Stephen Brault. moving to the next one. How about Arizona and Tampa Bay? And boy, did the Rays lay it on Arizona last night. And, again, we talk about situational spots. Doing the show yesterday with Dave Koch, and you said, Arizona coming off that big series in Colorado against a division rival at Coors, and now traveling out of the altitude. Well, they look like they had the hangover yesterday. 12-1, they got blasted. Do they bounce back in Game 2?
I think they do. As far as spot on, yesterday was a great spot to fade them, and I could see them bouncing back here. I mean, they are 13-8 on the road, a great bet on team. I mean, as is, Tampa Bay is arguably the best team in baseball right now. So laying a huge number with them, not necessarily huge, but minus 180 isn't a side I would look here. I would look for Arizona and a bounce back, and if you're looking for a big underdog, I would point you towards the D-backs.
Yeah, and this will be one of those ones where they go with the starter and then take him out. Stanek's been very successful for the Rays in this situation. But again, it is a big number with Tampa Bay off of the blowout last night. Rounding out the field, we got tonight also some interleague action going with Cincinnati at Oakland. Oakland returning home from the road trip. They just finished up in Pittsburgh against my Pirates. And, boy, the Oakland A's, is there ever a team that needed to get back home? This team is in total disarray right now. Just one win since April 26th. They've been getting pounded, not scoring a lot of runs. They've only hit over 4-run mark once in that time frame. Since the 26th. Do you see them turning things around, Drew, now that they're back at home? Or do you like the live road dog here with Cincinnati?
Yeah, it could be a buy low opportunity on Oakland after the tough road trip. That's the way I would look at this. I think we get a short number here, minus 120. You can get it as low as right now at 5 dimes. So I would look to be on the Athletics and fade Cincinnati. They're only 6-12 on the road. They don't play well away from home. So that's the side I would look at in the late night action, Marco, is Oakland minus the 120 here.
Yeah, the only thing that keeps me off Oakland, obviously is the way they're playing right now. But this is a team that is returning home off of a long road trip. This was a 3-city road trip. They went to Toronto, Boston, Pittsburgh, East Coast to West Coast. They did have the benefit of a day off yesterday. That, is one of the things that tapers me on going against teams on that first game back at home. They had a day to take care of business, see the missus, see the kids, get all that normal everyday things that you have to do. I mean, these guys are athletes, Drew, but one of the reasons that I do like that scenario of taking these teams that first game back home off of a long road trip, anybody that's married or has a significant other knows that when you've been gone, you got to spend some time when you get back, and it's not the normal baseball routine. And the kids want your attention and everything else. So sometimes that first game, a little distracted, not fully back in, got their head where they should be. And that's why I like going against those teams. And usually you're taking a road team, you're getting in baseball a road dog. So all I have to do is hit 50% of those plays long term, and I'm going to be way ahead because I'm going to be lining up on underdogs most of the time with that scenario. So that is the only thing keeping me off of Oakland tonight. I don't know if I got enough to pull the trigger on the Reds. They have been scoring runs, though. This is a team in their last 4 games, 11, 9, 5, and 12 against San Francisco. The other bad thing, though, with Cincinnati, and this is a negator, and I didn't think about this before, but all of those good stats that I broke down in that Colorado game why I was going against San Francisco, well, Cincinnati played yesterday, too, in that getaway game, and now they got to go all the way to the West Coast. So bad travel spot for them with the Reds having that day back home. So totally scratch that going against the home team in that first game. They cross each other out. Hey, Drew, man, this was fun, man. We went through the whole schedule. We got it done in, about 40 minutes, so not too bad. Only one interruption from the Prez. Usually he calls back in like 5 minutes. Why didn't you answer my call? Prez. But, hey, that's it. You got anything? What's happening? Today's $2 Tuesday. Who's the $2 capper over at Sports Memo?
Yeah, it's $2 Tuesday at Sports Memo. Check it out, sportsmemo.com. We got Nick Borman. He's been tearing it up on the soccer pitch, and he's got a Champions League play for just $2, a 5%er. And, he's been up over 65% of recent. So he's been on fire. He's the $2 guy. His Champions League match play is going off tomorrow, but today it's just $2. Tomorrow it will be back at $30. So make sure to check out sportsmemo.com today. You can follow me on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Marco, it's been fun, man. I like doing this. Hopefully next Tuesday you can fill in for Prez as well, or if Prez is back, you can join us. But yeah, man, it's been fun. And I got to ask you one question, man. Sure. It's not to do with baseball, but it's to do with the Kentucky Derby. I got to explain to you. I had the 7-horse maximum security. That was my bet. And the whole time, I've been doing this, as my straight job for 5 years. I was sitting there rooting for him to get in front of the other horses. I didn't know that you weren't allowed to do that. But horse racing, that should be legal. That's part of the sport, I feel.
Yeah, no, unfortunately it's not. And I was at South Point with a bunch of the guys on Saturday watching the Derby, and not a good Derby for me. I on all the shows I did, and maximum security ran me over twice. He got me in the Florida Derby with those slow fractions. I wasn't a believer of him going into that race, and then because of the slow fractions that he got in the Derby, I still wasn't a believer. He made a believer out of me Saturday with the Derby, but I told everybody he's coming down. I've been in horse racing for 30 years. You cannot impede the progress of another horse, and where the people that are screaming and yelling and don't understand horse racing is saying, but he didn't interfere with Country House. No, he didn't. But the way the rule is written is if you interfere with the progress of another horse in the race, you have to be placed behind the horse that you interfered. And because War of Will finished back, and then War of Will actually interfered with Long Range Toddy because it was a chain reaction, he had to be placed behind the worst finishing horse, and that's why he got taken completely off the board instead of just being flipped from first to second. If he had interfered with just Country House, then it would have been Country House still put to the winner, but then maximum security would have been left up for second. But it wasn't Country House that he interfered with. It was the other two horses, and put him out. And, man, Twitter's still going nuts over it. And that's anybody that had a ticket on maximum security. Not happy with that result. But it was the correct call. And neither horse is going to be in the Preakness. So we have no Triple Crown possibility. Country House is Bill Mott said today he's not going to the Preakness. The horse was coughing this morning, so they're going to play it safe and not run him back on 2 weeks. And Maximum Securities owner Gary West, I don't like the way he's handling this situation. He said he's not taking the horse to Preakness. They're filing a lawsuit for trying to overturn the decision. They're following an appeal. I can tell you I've been in horse racing a long time. Not going to happen. He's not going to win an appeal in this case. It's just bad for the sport. He could have been, nobody likes to lose. I've had horses win races and get disqualified, and it's not fun. In the one race that I had a horse disqualified, I have harness horses, so they race with the buggies. The silliest disqualification I've ever seen, but it happened. My horse was racing in behind another horse, Drew, and the horse on the front end, tried to slow the fractions down a little bit, so kind of like slowed down, and we kind of ran up on the back of him, and my horse's foot clipped the sulky will of the horse in front of him. Normally, any horse doing that, my horse should have made a break and went off stride, hitting the wheel like that. But she didn't. And she kept her, going, and she pulled out in the stretch, went on, won the race. The horse that she hit that wheel of, she caused the flat tire. The horse got a flat tire, and the jockey filed an objection. And they looked at it, saw what happened, saw the flat tire, and ended that horse's chance. So we won the race. That horse actually finished last with the flat tire, obviously. We got placed behind that horse because we flattened the tire. So, strange things in horse racing, but I understand where they place the horses and why they do what they do. So it was the correct call.
Okay, no, it makes a lot of sense, and I know that you know it as good as anybody, Marcus, so glad to get your opinion. I was just interested in how often that happens. I've never seen it. I'm a casual horse fan, and when he crossed the finish line, I'm like, yeah, we won, and I look like an idiot at the party because he doesn't.
No, well, it doesn't happen that often, and really you almost have to have somebody go down before another jockey files an objection, and that drives me crazy because the part that people don't understand is they're saying, well, the jockey on War of Will didn't file the objection. No, he didn't. But as I said, it's almost an unwritten law in the driver colony, so to speak, the jockeys. If what was it going to do for War of Will? Because he finished out of the money. It wasn't going to get him into the money, and so he didn't file the objection. As an owner, I want you to file the objection. That doesn't matter where it's at. You file the objection. We didn't benefit, okay? We didn't get any money, and we're not going to get any money. But you know what? The other horse caused that, and it's not the gentleman's agreement. I'm sorry. It's like at the poker table, Drew. There's no friends at a poker table. There should be no friends on the racetrack. You're all out there competing to win the money, and that's the part that if he would have filed the objection, it would have made the whole situation look a lot easier. And when the stewards did what they did and take the horse down, there was the gray area saying, well, he didn't file the objection, so there must not have been a foul. Yes, and if you looked at it very closely, we're lucky that wasn't a major catastrophe. If you look at the legs, War of Will's front two legs actually went between the back two legs of Maximum Security. How they didn't clip legs and one of them go down, and if one of them goes down at that point in the race, somebody's getting trampled, because that's where it's a cavalry charge, especially with a 20-horse field coming to the finish line. A horse could have been, had to be put down. A jockey could have been seriously injured in an accident like that. So we're lucky everybody came out A-OK as far as that goes. But fun, Kentucky Derby's always fun. There's no other day like that for me. The greatest 2 minutes in sports. But now the next two races are going to really be, for horse racing, there's not going to be any interest with no Triple Crown on the line. Unless the only way we get some buzz would be come Belmont, the third leg, if Maximum Security shows up against Country House. That's where we would have the old grudge match, so to speak. So let's hope we get that matchup for the Belmont. That would be cool. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that would be betting Maximum Security in a grudge match because he was the best horse that day. There's no question about it. All right, for Drew Martin, I'm Marco D'Angelo. We'll be back with another edition tomorrow. And unfortunately, in a few days, the Prez will be back, and you guys will have to deal with him. But he's Drew Martin. I'm Marco D'Angelo. Till tomorrow, good luck. Cash some tickets tonight.